Hey there, everybody. It's pouring out, and I have some inside things to do today as well. So I figured that this would be a great opportunity to show you how I am keeping track of the things that we plant where we are, how I'm keeping track of the trails that I'm putting in, and how I am organizing some of my improvements and investments on this property so that you guys can be more empowered to make these kinds of decisions and designs on your own. Um, this is a free thing that we can do here, so it's just mymaps.google.com. I have one pre-made, but they're easy enough to do, and you can just create a new one however you need to. But so we're going to go into the Lally Luck Farm one. And you'll notice right off the bat, I have it in a particular view. This is the topographical map. These are not the most granular of maps. You can look for GIS surveys for specific areas in your state or county or town and get really detailed ones. I have gone in and popped in these lines here. So this is at 320 feet. This one here is at 300. If I can get the mouse to click on it. So I know that this is 300 feet, and I know that this one is 320, and these are the ones that interact with my site the most, so those are the ones that we drew in. So I'm going to go back to our general satellite view so that you can really get a sense of where things are, and you can see these guys slightly. If I wanted to, I could come in and I could make the lines really big if I'm playing with water catchment, or if I'm trying to figure out where to place things in relation to the slope. I can come in and make this as big as I want, as dramatic as I want, but for today's purposes, we're just going to leave them where they are. So I've gone and drawn out from our town's tax map a rough estimation of the shape of our plot. Up here is where your tools are. So you have your undo, redo. You can select things, you can add markers in place, and we'll get to that in a moment. And then there's this draw a line tool, and that's what we've been using to draw out boundaries and how we made the contour lines. This is really just a dot layer, so you can draw a straight line, or you can make a series of dots to make it kind of roundish, like that. We'll just get rid of that guy. And then you can add directions, or you can measure distances and areas. So if you wanted to see exactly how long this stretch would be for our purposes of fencing, I could come in here, I could select this one point and then drag it all the way out, and so I would need roughly 184, say 200 feet of fencing if I wanted to fence off this section between us and our neighbor, right? I can block out areas, I can see just how big things are. So in here, we have our house. You can see the uphill food forest area right here. You can see the remnants of the fencing from last year's bee yard right in here. And then our annual vegetable area up in here. And so what we've been doing on the left side of the screen is we've added in infrastructure. So I'll add that layer. And what we've done is just drawn boxes with that line tool around each of the bird yards. And so this is the chicken yard. You can see that it's about 0.031 acres. The duckyard, just a little bit smaller. If I wanted to see exactly how big a combined duckyard would be, I could just come in and kind of so I could get almost up to 1/10 of an acre by combining those two, which means that my ducks and my chickens will have considerably more foraging space, and I can keep them out of my other intentional gardens. So these are some of the ways that we can do these. I'll get rid of the ruler. So we have the duckyard, we have our chicken yard, and then if I zoom out a little bit, you'll see the lower pond over in here. And so what we've been doing is setting up our basic infrastructure, our basic maps, and then adding in the things that we know are in a certain location. So I've put in our neighbor's access road in a big swath that is kind of our defining limiting feature. And you can see the tree cover that's still in here, but they have cleared the majority of these trees. It used to be dense, like in here or over in here. And you can also see kind of the pattern of the hardwoods and softwoods, so our conifers and our deciduous trees. And so using this overhead gives us kind of an idea of what our species mix is, where we need to do our efforts, and while not exactly to the minute, we are able to use all of this information to help plan our gardens and what we're doing. So we're going to actually get into adding plants from this most recent set of purchases. And we will go ahead and bring up my shrub layer first. And so what I have are, my setup is that they are styled by name so that each various plant that I put in will show the same color, and I can group them and highlight specific ones. So if I'm ever wondering where exactly I've put all of my spice bush or all of my New Jersey teas, I'm able to see where each of those are, and I can call them out, and this just makes it so that my organizational work is somewhat automated for me. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new marker because I put in some plants, and I'm going to drop it roughly right about here. So that's going to be our blackberry. And so I have now my new blackberry. And I'll change it over to a dot just because I like that convention. But I added 3 of those, so I'm going to go in here and just click it. And I will blackberry again. And you can see the second time I did it, it automatically just changed it to a dot. And so we'll drop in our third one right here. And so now I have my other 3 blackberries that I've put in. I can come up here and drop additional ones because we did put them right up in here. So I can go. Oh, and that dropped into the wrong area, so I can just drag and drop from one side to another one if it accidentally groups it with a different area. I'm just leaving the property boundary up to see what I'm doing. So I can come in here and drop in all of these berry bushes. I haven't added any new trees recently, but I'll show you guys what that all looks like. So we've got our trees. You can see that I've made these guys somewhat more large just to be kind of more representative of their size difference to the rest of the berry bushes. And so what we've been doing is just as we go, we kind of make a mental note of where roughly we're planting things, and then we will drop our pins and mark everything out. If I go in, you can see that this still looks a little bit bare, and you don't see a whole lot of shrubs or bush layers. But if I come in here, I'll add in our herbaceous layer. You can see what I've done here is just mark out garden spaces themselves. I think that that's an easier convention than going in and dropping individual pins for however many plants. You could do this by rows if you wanted to. You could do this by whole spaces. But so what I've got here is annuals. And right now I have it listed as shiitakes because those are an endemic species. We put a ton of those into this garden space here. They're fully inoculated in, but the vegetables that we plant each year rotate. So this just has that one named convention. If I were to go back here, though, you'll see that I have my Comfrey and the cultivar name. As we add other herbaceous perennials, we add those in. And what that looks like would be something like over in here, where we have Comfrey, Anise hyssop, Good King Henry, Eupatorium, which is the boneset, Valerian, and Echinaceas. And so we just have these little spaces. You can see I've divided the front and the neighbor space. You can see that there are a few different ones, and this is just how we've gone about doing it. I think that this is the most accessible for folks, and I think that this is a way for people to really step up their gardening and planning game. I accidentally moved that, so we're going to undo that. I will say this sometimes has some idiosyncrasies, some quirks that make it not my favorite. I can come in here and accidentally, grab some of these sometimes, or it'll move on its own, is what it seems like. But you can always just step back, go back, undo your thing, and get it right. So yeah, this is how we've been doing it. I hope this is helpful for some of you. As always, thanks for watching. Happy planning.